I think this Eagles team has a great chance of beating the Bucs. So much so that if I was a betting man, and I am no longer, unfortunately, so you guys have to take that baton from me, I would pound the table for the Eagles, especially at +7 or +9 or whatever the line is now. It's easy money. Look, I did say, alright, I did say. Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Liam Jenkins and welcome to another video here on Philly Sports Network. I hope some of you have emotionally recovered from the weekend. I hope the rest of you are, getting over it with the help of bands like the 1975 just to get you back on track. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't great, the team was an absolute dumpster fire, but it's sort of, I guess, what we expected, alright? And we could take a lot of time to look at Jonathan Gannon's defense, or where was Devontae Smith, or why was Jalen Reagor there so much? But we're going to have the whole offseason for that. I think the most pressing question right now is Jalen Hurts a franchise quarterback? Is he going to be given a longer leash? Will he be the starter next year? And if I'm honest, I think the answer is we don't know. And that's exactly where we were this time a year ago, and that's sort of the problem right now. Now, I just want to make my stance clear on Jalen Hurts. I've been rooting for him since day one. I think a lot of people have. It's hard not to root for a guy that A, looks like he could steal your woman in a moment's notice, B, has every single leadership trait under the sun. The guy just exudes confidence and swagger and a fearlessness about him that it just inspires you. Like, you want to run through it all for him. And as an athlete, remarkable. We knew that coming out of college. I think he may be among the 3-4 most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL, certainly among the 3 or 4 most dominant from a dual threat perspective. Where the issues were in year 1 and where we were hoping to see development in year 2 were in his accuracy as a passer and going through his progressions, his touch on the deep ball, the power on just short passes because he often lacked zip on his balls, and we're not talking that kind of balls, guys. Let's, And the Eagles were in the perfect position to explore this, right? They had 3 first-round picks in next year's draft. If Hurts didn't pan out, if he threw a wobbler, if he did absolutely nothing, 3 first-round picks. You can get your guy via trade, get your free agent, draft Kenny Pickett and his tiny little hands. But the option was there, okay? And if Jalen Hurts did great, then brilliant, because those draft picks are going to be used on maybe another new first-round pick wide receiver, or maybe even a new defensive end, or just something to surround him with talent to make sure he's going to have the best chance of success. The problem is, at the end of year 2, his first full season, we're still on the fence. We still don't know, but you want to root for him. And I think this is the key thing. If this was a guy that looked and sounded like Carson Wentz and liked hunting and went out and was a little bit dorky and was a little bit sort of, I don't want to say misfitty, but he certainly wasn't the vibe of Philadelphia, I think we'd be a lot harder on him. But the fact that Hurts has just got the whole city around him, has encapsulated the aura of what it means to be from Philadelphia and to play for that city, has galvanized an entire locker room, has won the trust and respect of the coaching staff. You want to root for him. You want to see him succeed. And that's a big thing. But are those intangibles going to be enough? Ultimately, we don't know. It's going to come down to Howie Roseman, because he's the guy that has probably been the most aggressive GM, well, outside of the Rams maybe, but one of the most aggressive GMs in the league in recent memory. And almost had this denial that the Super Bowl window had passed. He was always trying to keep it open. The drafting of Hurts, to me, signified the end of that and a slight change of heart. But now it's just how patient does he want to be, and how far away does he think the team is from competing. If he thinks they're a quarterback away, and in another parallel universe with another quarterback at the helm, be it, I don't know, a backup even like Tyrod Taylor, for instance, that they could have had this past offseason, be it a different rookie, there were several on the table, whatever it may be, that would have changed everything and the Eagles could have beaten the Bucs, then Howie, I think, is going to pull the trigger on a move. If he thinks, though, that this team isn't there yet, and they are a few games away and a few pieces away, and it's going to take a few years for these young core players to become those core players, then you're going to ride Jalen Hurts because it's the most logical thing. The chances of landing an Aaron Rodgers are outlandish. You don't want Deshaun Watson. Derek Carr, I don't know if you want to convince yourself to that point of denial already. And the draft picks aren't exactly brilliant, I don't think. The QB class isn't glistening with talent. So Hurts, to me, is the most sustainable option. And I think the problem is that we've become so used to success that when you don't have it, there's a desperation for it. And that's not just fans, that's not just media, that's GMs across the league. That's why there's such a high turnover rate in quarterbacks and that they're given such short leashes. I mean, just look back at Josh Rosen. You know, like what happened to him a few years ago? It's incredible to look at. So if you believe in a quarterback and you think he's got the intangibles, and we know that he does with Hurts, then you're gonna, I think, give him time to succeed. Did he develop this year? Yeah, I think he did, but the games he looked good in were against subpar defenses. The games he looked bad in, he looked a little bit flustered, and all those fundamentals seemed to come unwrapped at once, and he wouldn't pull off his first read. He was staying locked in on Dallas Goedert. He left wide open touchdowns. He didn't have touch on the deep ball. He wasn't accurate. He was a bit flustered in the pocket and just sort of skitting around a little bit. We're in the games like we saw this weekend against Tampa Bay, and that has been the same it was as a rookie. It's the same as it's been all season. Has he shown growth in those areas? You can argue, yeah, but not enough to go and give him, you know, a lovely new contract extension out of the blue. I know it would never happen. I'm just using it for a parallel. The fact that the conclusion on Jalen Hurts to me is inconclusive kind of says all you need to know. And right now, I'd view him in a similar sort of conversation as a Ryan Tannehill. And they're very contrasting quarterbacks, I get it. But if you look at Ryan Tannehill without Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill with Derrick Henry, two very different players. If you look at Jalen Hurts when the running game's good and the games where Jalen Hurts has to throw from behind to give his team a chance, it's not there. And you can have the most dominant rushing offense in the NFL, and he can be a massive cog in that wheel. Doesn't mean that wheel's going to roll through playoff team. And that's what it comes down to. Does Howie Roseman believe Jalen Hurts can be the guy to do it? I think so. I think he can. It's just going to take time. Let's not forget that Jalen Hurts through college has had, 4 years now of different coordinators, because he went from Bama to Oklahoma to Doug Peterson to this. He hasn't had any sort of stability. There's no base to grow out of. This is the first year now going into this year where he's going to have that base, that kind of calmness where he can take some sustenance and build on it. I'd like to think that will play a factor going into year 2 in the same system for the first time in his career for a very long time. It's a tricky one. It really is. And there wasn't a lot of hope to inspire after that game. I think what fans are now stuck on is the fact that you want to root for him. You want to root for Jalen Hurts because of who he is, because of the way he carries himself, and because you know if he can develop as a passer, that ceiling is high. We've seen it with Lamar Jackson. He took a couple years to get going. We saw it with Josh Allen. Took a couple years to get going. Will we see it with Jalen Hurts? It ultimately isn't our call. It comes down to what Howie Roseman views. And if he thinks that he could reach that ceiling of a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson, then you're going to ride him. I think the potential is there. They're going to have to be patient with it. This isn't an instant gratification game. Pro Bowl quarterbacks aren't made overnight, ladies and gentlemen. And at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts has shown enough, I think, to prove that he can thrive in this offense. With Sirianni, who finally started bending around his strengths, which are moving, which is getting that mobility in full highlight, you know? Like, let the offensive line do their thing and let Hurts work his magic. I'd like to think next year he can take a step forward. But realistically, if it's the same thing next year, it's gonna be a shorter leash. But with the market so, I think, devoid of attainable options, let's say, and the draft class devoid of anything that would be even remotely closest to Hurts' floor, let alone his ceiling, it makes sense to keep him another year. And all I've done since day one is preach patience with Hurts. He's not the most electric passer in the world, but it's easy to go, I wish we had a quarterback that threw. I wish we had a quarterback that was accurate. You have that in Carson Wentz, and it's, I wish he could move around. I wish he wasn't so hero ball in the pocket. I wish he wasn't so, I wish he wasn't such a liability with the ball in his hands. You have that in Hurts. Just let things settle. Let things play out. It's absolutely okay to say that, you know what, Jalen Hurts isn't a franchise quarterback yet. Is there a belief he can become one? Absolutely. Do a lot of people think he can? Definitely. And with the right pieces, with a strong WR1, with a resurgent run game, a dominant offensive line, you'd like to think he'll thrive. But at some point, he's going to have to prove he can throw the ball. I don't think he's done that yet. He has been too inconsistent. Short throws, long throws, lack of touch, lack of accuracy, can't get off his first read, and reverts to his legs because it's his comfort zone. It's the same thing whenever he has to throw from behind. The same thing happens. It's almost just a comfy habit that he falls into because he knows it usually gets him out of trouble as opposed to having to confront those demons head on. At some point, he's going to have to. It's whether or not Howie Roseman gives him the luxury to. But I would like to know what your guys' thoughts are on the Jalen Hurts quarterback situation. Has he shown you enough to win that quarterback role for another year, maybe beyond that? How would you handle this right now? Is it a 2-year window? Is it a 3-year window? Or are you done? Let me know down in the comments, guys. From myself, Liam Jenkins. I'll see you next time. Go Birds.